what factors can help or aid the achievement of goals and or stand in the way? Ooh. Big question, sorry.
No, it's a great question. I mean, I think it is having that plan in place, isn't it? But I think also that sometimes you need to have a plan in place, but you need to have that flexibility within that plan as well. And certainly, last night I said to the group, whatever you have just written down as whatever it is that you've just decided you want to achieve, now reduce that so it's 80% of what you just decided, because life throws curveballs at us all the time. It's one thing that we can expect is the unexpected is going to happen. So we have to have that flexibility within the plan, the process, the system that we follow for getting from where we are now to where we want to get to is really important. But having it flexible enough is, I think sometimes it's that one of my clients calls it, her stickability is sometimes that what is a very positive attribute sometimes becomes a negative because that flexibility isn't there. So I think, planning to 80% rather than planning to 100% is really helpful, because think about your worst day, on the day where work is really busy, one of your children is homesick from school, the other one is a little bit grumpy and wants a little bit more attention, and your wife's late home from work. On that day where all of the things that could possibly go wrong, how much energy and capacity do you have to show up for your goals? Because if you're planning for this much and on that day you've got this much, you're more likely to say, oh, well, I can't do anything today, so I won't do anything at all. But if you always plan that you can still do this much and you still do this much every day, then there'll be some days where you've got a little bit more capacity and you can do a little bit more. So it means you get ahead of the game. So I think most people that I talk to, that's the challenge, in helping them to find something that's sustainable. And something that is sustainable and something that they can be consistent with, because a plan is great, but the plan needs to be both sustainable and it needs to be something that you get excited about, that you want to be consistent with. You want to show up to that every day, rather than that whole kind of deep breath, eyeball roll of, got everything else, but now I've still got this to do. I think you can have both. You can set the really big, exciting, scary goals, but then plan to get there with the small, incremental, sustainable, consistent daily activities. And I think that for me is the difference. And I think, the smaller that you set it, the easier it is to achieve. And I think for me, it's that difference between the discipline and then the motivation. So certainly the questions that I ask with people that I work with is it small enough for you to be consistent? And is it easy to be disciplined with what you've set? Can you create that discipline to show up with and follow that plan? Because the more you can stay disciplined with the plan that you've made, the more you'll start to see results. And the more results you start to see, the more motivated you will be to keep going. And it's that keep on going, that stickability and that consistency is what's going to bring you those results. So kind of all goes into that melting pot, doesn't it? But it goes back to your first question of, well, where do you start? Well, you start with knowing where you want to get to. Then you create the plan, but you create a plan that's easy enough for you to be disciplined and consistent with, that's sustainable, because then you'll start to see the results. The results will what motivate you, and that's what's going to keep that momentum going for you to get to the end goal. But there's lots in there, isn't there? There's lots that goes into the melting pot to help you.